Servus Männer, it's Red Pill Germany again. As a controversy is brewing around a certain American light beer manufacturer, Budweiser, not the Czech Budweiser, but the American one, of course, I have to give my 2 cents from the beer capital of the planet, from good old Bavaria, of course. In today's talk, I want to review briefly what has happened, roughly at least. I didn't follow all the details. And then, as we see a boycott from certain people in America, conservatives or right-wing people, or just traditional men, or, well, which is basically the target audience or the consumers of this light beer, I believe, I want to say a few words about boycotts in general, and especially boycotts from the right, which so far have never worked out, I think. And then towards the very end, because I think that is not interesting to many people, I want to tell you what I personally think about beer and what my personal taste is. So let's get right into it. Of course, there are a lot of details and I will not get into all of them, of course. Long story short, this light beer producer has teamed up with the Alphabet crowd, and especially one of them, an influencer that is very popular, someone who acts like a girl in front of the camera, and they put the face of that person on these beer cans, on these light beer cans then. The relatively new and young marketing person at the company, well, once again, I don't want to make any mistakes with the gender here. Let's just call it a person, because really, I really don't know it's a person, okay? She said this was done in order to alter the brand image of Bud Light, so going away from this male-oriented or traditional beer to be more open and inclusive, yada yada. I think you know exactly what I'm talking about. So they basically wanted to make the beer the new drink of the Alphabet crowd, because as we all know, they're 70% of the population, right? That was met with a lot of ridicule by, independent media and also other people, and basically the people who drink the beer, they don't understand this, and it has gotten so far that this marketing person was then replaced by another person. There are many voices on the internet that say now that, this boycott is very strong and they're already losing money and the stock is plummeting. And to be honest, it is bigger, or it seems bigger as what we've had so far, which doesn't mean a lot because, as I said, boycotts from the right, they never work. And please let me know in the comments down below if you know of a case where conservative or traditionalist or right-wing people ever got a boycott, a classical product boycott as a backlash to some unforgivable sin marketing error of a company, when this has ever worked. I can really still remember 2019, I think, Procter & Gamble, Gillette, the razors, they had a very anti-male marketing campaign, basically calling men horrible human beings and even criminals. And people at the time said, I will never buy any products from Procter & Gamble ever again. But just look at the stock. I haven't heard anything about this anymore. The company is doing well. None of the brands, to my knowledge, had any bigger problems that are under this umbrella, Procter & Gamble. And it will be probably the same way with Bud Light, that is owned by Anheuser-Busch, which is owned by Anheuser-Busch InBev, which is a company from Europe, from Belgium. They own many, many brands all over the world, beer, of course, in Asia, in Africa, in Europe, in America, Brazil, for example, a lot. And none of these beers are yummy, but more about this later. I went through the list of all the beers and I don't like any of them. So if it was about me, this company could go away and I wouldn't even notice it. And by that, I don't just mean Budweiser, I mean all of those beers that belong to this biggest brewing conglomerate on the planet. But this is the point. Even if Bud Light would completely go bankrupt and vanish, it wouldn't even matter. And do you really think that it is only a Bud Light problem and all the other brands, or all the other beer brands for that matter? Like if you go to Miller, Coors, and whatever, they have these light beers in the US that you can get everywhere. Do you really think these companies are fundamentally different? or all those other companies that show these rainbows and whatnot. Once again, I have never heard of any boycott that really worked coming from Christians or the right or what have you. It seems like it is only leftist boycotts that ever work. Why is that? Well, I think because conservative people, they want to play by the rules, and they are also more live and let live kind of people. So yeah, maybe they think, yeah, well, this marketing strategy or this board of directors or this company, they disagree with my values, and maybe they even publicly mock me or people like me, but well, I really keep that separate from the product, and I still buy the product, and well, I just, look the other way more or less. People on the left, however, they really think differently about that. They think it is a personal sin if you buy a product from a company that is, for example, right-wing or conservative. They wouldn't do that. And they would write emails and make calls and harass everyone in their circle of friends and at work until they stop. Yes, they are horrible people, and yes, this is really unsettling, or how should I say, uncomfortable. I obviously don't like people like that, these obnoxious crusader types, but well, they get the job done. It is horrible to be around them, and they are horrible people, but politically they get the job done. So we can say at least that marketing person had to go. But if you look further than that, I can't see any change in the stock price, for example, of the conglomerate. But we have heard, for example, anecdotally at least me that is, that some orders have been cancelled, and that distributors, they say that people don't really buy that beer anymore, at least in the short term. There seems to be some kind of effect. Let's see for how long this will go on, if this will really be the time when things finally change, and people on the right or conservative, whatever you want to call it, when they will make a fuss, not just for a week or 2 days, but really lasting, and just stop drinking that beer. Which brings me to the last part of today's presentation. Why do people drink light beer anyway? And this is really my personal opinion. I do not like light beers unless I am in a steam bath, unless I'm in the rainy season or the summer in the tropics or subtropics. In Japan, for example, when it's really like a steam bath in summer, yes, I wouldn't want to like a malty, heavy, smoky, 7% alcohol German beer. But in any other situation, I would never drink light beer. Of course, personal taste is something that forms over the years, or when you grow up, like from your childhood or the memories from your youth. But there is another angle to this, and I really checked what kind of beers I like, what kind of beers I drink, and it occurred to me that none of them, unless you talk about the Japanese ones that I drink when I'm there, none of them really are from big corporations. They are all family owned, and they are very small in size. And yes, there are places where you don't have this kind of a beer culture, but in the United States, for example, over the last years or in the last decade, I think, there were many, many small breweries that have opened up, and beyond craft beer, which is kind of a hipster thing, but I just mean small family-owned companies or small founder-owned companies. In Germany, for example, you have a lot of individual little breweries that have these Brauerei Gasthof or these brewing inns where you can sleep. It's kind of a hotel, they have a restaurant, and they have their own brewery, and that is amazing. Of course, in northern Bavaria, this is kind of the center of brewing culture in the world, where the brewery density is the highest on the planet. But also when you go to the east and you go over the border to the Czech Republic, these beers are really similar. They are very malty, they have character, and they are strong in flavor. My personal opinion is that I would rather pay more for a liter of beer than drink beer that tastes like water. I don't drink beer because I'm thirsty. I drink beer because it tastes good. It is the drink of my ancestors. It is part of our identity, of our culture, and it just tastes amazing. And so I don't compromise on taste. I'd rather drink less beer, fewer beers per week, than drink this light water-like beer like Beck's, for example, which, oh wow, surprise, is also part of the same InBev conglomerate. In the end, it all just tastes like water. And even when you go to Japan, you find that they get their malt from Bavaria and they have their vessels built in Bamberg, Bavaria. Yeah. So even the Japanese know where the good stuff comes from, and they brew excellent beer in small local breweries that have nothing to do, according to what I know at least, with international corporations. So yeah, just drink 50% the beer so you'll be able to pay double for the liter, and that guarantees, or that it at least enables you to have proper quality in your mug. As for this recent boycott, well, I wouldn't be surprised if this all goes away, just like in the case of the razor blades in 2019. But well, I would be positively surprised, of course, if this goes somewhere and the right finally finds some kind of potential or ability to influence politics or what brands do and communicate with boycotts, which is normally just a technique in the arsenal of the left. To my knowledge, at least, enlighten me, put it down in the comments below if you know of a boycott that worked, that came from Christians or right-wingers or traditionalists, etc. You know what I mean. Enjoy the rest of the day. Servus, Kameraden.